Françoise Hardy was born in January of 1944. Paris, at that time, was not simply a city. It was a tired body, a body that had not slept for a very long time. The war was not yet over, but people had already learned not to speak of it too loudly. Walls were cold, streets were narrow and restrained, windows were often fogged, as if even the glass was holding its breath. The future existed, but only as something people avoided naming. Everyone was waiting, yet no one was certain for what. And in the middle of this quiet tension, a child came into the world, Françoise. There was no great noise to welcome her, no celebration, no certainty. Life did not greet her loudly. It simply opened its eyes and watched. She was born into silence, not an empty silence, a heavy one, a silence full of things that could not be said. The apartment was small, furniture was modest, nothing unnecessary, nothing excessive. Everything had a reason to exist. Her mother was strong, disciplined, emotionally restrained. Love was present, but carefully contained. Affection did not overflow. It stayed within limits. Françoise learned very early what many people learn much later, that not every feeling is meant to be shown, that some emotions are safer when kept inside. This was not a lack of love. It was a form of survival. So Françoise grew quietly. She did not rush forward. She did not demand attention. She did not raise her voice to be noticed. She waited, quietly. Her childhood was lonely, but not dark. It was filled with thoughts, with observations, with questions that did not require immediate answers. She was a child who watched the world from a slight distance. She listened carefully, not only to words, but to pauses, to hesitations, to what people chose not to say. Perhaps that is why, years later, her songs never shouted. Music was never an escape for her. It was never a performance. Music became her language. When words felt too exposed, melodies spoke instead. Unspoken sentences turned into songs. Hidden emotions found shelter in notes. Every melody carried restraint. Every lyric held a quiet distance. Time passed. Françoise grew older. Her voice matured. And one day, the world noticed her. Her songs traveled far beyond Paris, beyond borders, beyond language. Millions listened. And yet, Françoise Hardy never fully stepped into the center. She did not run toward the lights. She did not lean into applause. She stayed slightly to the side. Always. People misunderstood this distance. They called her cold. They called her distant. They called her unreachable. But the truth was much softer. Françoise Hardy was protecting herself. Because some people learn very early that the world can be sharp, that exposure can wound. And some children are born during wartime. But the war does not always end when the streets grow quiet. Sometimes it continues inside, as caution, as reserve, as silence. Françoise Hardy's story did not begin with success. It did not begin with music. It began on a cold Paris morning, in a waiting city, inside a quiet room. It began with silence. And perhaps that is why her voice was always gentle. It never demanded, never insisted, never pushed itself forward. It simply existed. It left space for the listener. Françoise Hardy never needed to be loud to be present. She was felt deeply without raising her voice. And everything that followed, the music, the distance, the quiet strength, came later. Because long before the songs, long before the world listened, there was only a small room, a fragile moment, and a silence that stayed with her forever.